People aren't spending. Consumers aren't spending.
And they're actually paying down their credit card debts as well.
Well, sure. And you know, I mean, I was listening to Mark Farber this morning, David Tice, sorry, I'm getting my people confused here. And David Tice from the Fidelity Bear Fund is calling for the S&P to go down to 400. He can't specify exactly when it's going to happen. Could be in a week, could be in a month, could be in 3 months, 6 months from now. But it's inevitable that is where the market is heading. And Bob would be better able to answer this question than I.
I'm here.
But Bob, I was just telling John, I was listening to David Tice was on this morning on Bloomberg News, and he's calling for the S&P to go down to 400. He didn't put a time frame. He said it could be next week, next month, and 3 months from now, but it's going to happen. So in S&P 500, where does that put the Dow? At 4,000?
No, you multiply times 9.
Oh.
And so that's 3,600 on the Dow. And David said that about a week ago as well.
That was a great interview. That was a great interview. Thank you for that.
And it appeared by link in the International Forecaster. David's a very good friend of mine, and I've known him for a long time. And he is one of the brightest, most intelligent, most correct, and very few people are right most of the time, of any of his genre. And he's a fine human being. And he's right. He's dead on. And, I wish I don't know which issue it was in, maybe 2 or 3 back. People should listen to that interview. It was fantastic. And he's saying the same thing I am, and his head's in the same place. Ours is, or are. And that's where we're going. And you see the machinations that are going on before this G20 meeting. And what they're up to is trying to pave the way for what I talked about on this program long ago, was a meeting like the Smithsonian in the early 70s or the Plaza Accord in 85, and that'll happen 6 months, a year and a half, 2 years from now. I don't know when, but it's going to happen, and they're going to revalue and devalue all currencies against one another. They will allow default probably 2/3. And I think the United States will issue a new U.S. dollar for each of the 3 old ones that you have. And so you'll take a 2/3 haircut. And I think that they will then reach out for an international trading unit made up of the top 20 currencies. And if they don't put gold into it, like 10% gold backing, they may as well not waste their time. But that's where it's all headed.
I was looking at the markets today, and I noticed, Bob, something very strange that just transpired. I checked the market about 15 minutes before it closed. Said the United States dollar was 76 and some change, and it was down some 60. 15 minutes later.
Well, the exact figure I have here is 76.07 minus 67.
Well, it's 76.08, and it's only showing minus 37.
Well, that's because they don't know how to count.
Obviously, we do, though. We'll be right back. Well, the Business Insider reports under the heading of cluster stock. I'm sure there's a tongue-in-cheek there. The broke FDIC may borrow money from the banks. Now, they got a new plan to save themselves, one that's already prompted cheering and backslapping in the banking industry. I'm sure that that's correct. Instead of hitting the industry with huge one-time fees, which would hurt profits and stock prices, and instead of running hat in hand to the Treasury for a direct bailout, which would force Sheila Bair to genuflect and kiss a certain part of the anatomy of Mr. Geithner, the FDIC will borrow tens of billions of dollars right from the banks. Now,
and where do the banks get the money from? They got it from the Fed, and it was created out of thin air.
Well, in short, what does this? Why does the banking industry love this plan? Well, more risk-free lending to institutions ultimately backed by whom? The taxpayer. New ways to lend money without actually putting money at risk. They've been doing that for a long time. And small hit to income statements. Now, at least the banks have to pay interest on the debt. And this is the breakdown on it. Borrowing from the industry is allowed under an obscure provision of the 1991 law adopted during the savings and loan crisis, another manufactured taxpayer bailout. The lending banks would receive bonds from the government at an interest rate that would be set by the Treasury Secretary and ultimately would be paid by the rest of the industry. The bonds would be listed as an asset on the books of the banks. Another one of their assets. Not really.
Cloud cuckoo land.
I'm telling you. You know, while you were away there for a few minutes, Bob, Ron Paul's H.R. 1207 is, I guess, going to go to committee here this Friday. We got the G20 rolling right now. We got Timmy Geithner and Ben Bernanke. Ben Bernanke basically huffing and puffing and threatening to blow our house down if we ask too many questions. But where do you see this thing going? It's going to have to come to a head soon enough. But how soon, and what's Oblio's head going to look like? Is it going to have a point or not?
Well, first of all, we do have also on Thursday the gold option explorations. And tomorrow on Thursday, the banks, which are called commercials, will be fighting hammer and tong to bring down the gold price. Now, it was very surprising that the price of gold was up $13.20 early on this morning. And that's because, obviously, the gold sellers of the United States, such as the United States, have no gold, or if they do, they don't want to sell it. And so the bullion market is leading the way, and that's why they held gains today in spot of $10.80. That was $1,014. And the outside month was up $11.30, which is about 50 cents higher. And so if the banks don't want to lose their tails by not rigging the market tomorrow, either that or they're insane for not rigging the market tomorrow, or maybe the Chinese have beat them at their own game. And I suspect this may be the case. They're in the physical market buying, and they're in the futures market buying. And so that's why they can't bring down the price of gold in order to avoid paying on these options, which is quite a substantial amount of money. And at the same time, we have record shorts by the same gang of thieves called commercials, which are banks, who are acting in behalf of the United States government. And I believe it's around 275,000 net short gold contracts. And goodness knows what it'll be on Friday for this past Tuesday. Tuesday's close is reported on Friday. And so it's probably higher. And they're going to get their lunch eaten in here this time. This is going to be a commercial signal failure, as it's called. And you look at the long-term gold chart, you're in a reverse head and shoulders, the most powerful of all formations, and it's already broken out to the upside. It looks like a W, and it's a right-hand side of that W that's broken out. And it could go anywhere between $1,250 and $1,700, and we won't know until we get there. And anybody who is not buying gold-related assets in here that has money should have their head examined.
Well, there's money still out there, but the money doesn't know where to park itself.
Because they're dumber than dumb.
Well, they bought into the plan, and, well, look,
It's okay. John, it's okay. We'll let them lose all their money. It's all right.
Well, and I was just going to say, Bob, when we were kids and we were playing the Monopoly game, we sat there and we played, we'd pick up the box top and we'd read the rules, and we wouldn't sit there and redo the game or question why the game was set up that way. You just had a basic set of rules, and you read the box top, and everybody played by the rules.
Nobody plays by the rules. I don't know if Bob knows this, but I picked the story up on NPR the other day, and I believe they did it on CNBC yesterday.
Well, hold that thought, Robbie. We'll find out what the story was. Also want to get into, why is the IMF selling over 400 tons of gold, and how much are the Chinese going to be borrowing? And what are they going to do with all that bad paper? Oh, that's right, they're lending it to Africa.